Good morning, everyone. I thank you for your presence, and I want to see if there are questions from yesterday or from anything that has come to you since our discussion or prior to. So, if there are questions or state comments, please make them now, please, or ask the questions now or make the comments.
Good morning. This is Mary. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't do my research very well, so I purchased a house in Elgin, and it was a really strong one last night. I was wondering about the spiritual implications. I know that the scripture says the whole creation is mourning for us to get in line, and I'm wondering if that's part of it, because I needed some comfort, and that's what came to me. And I just want to know y'all thoughts about it. Because I signed it dotted line, so I'm kind of stuck now, so I can't just move.
What happened last night? I didn't get it.
We had a earthquake. Ooh, and the earth just shook. And we're having, and I just moved here in May, and it's been several since I moved here. I said, man, I need to go back to Greenville, but I'm kind of stuck. So just asking, what are the spiritual, or I'm sure there is a spiritual implication for the earthquake, and I just want to know your thoughts about it.
Anyone want to respond to that before?
I got one response for it, Rev. The Bible said it will be earthquake close to the end of time.
Yeah.
Yep. You're right.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
The question is what time? End of what time?
That's what I want to expand on to. Go ahead, Barbara.
I don't know if I have anything else to say other than it's the end of an age, the end of an era, the end of a type of consciousness and the ushering in of a new type of consciousness. Because spiritually, when it talks about time, it really doesn't talk about time as we know time. So it could be, the ushering in of even more spiritual consciousness in a sense.
Okay. I would like to change one word. Could. But I don't think it could be that. I think it is that. And the reason I say that is because for the last, 8 months maybe, Ron periodically has been raising questions about the number of earthquakes that we are experiencing in South Carolina. As far as Mary, let me respond to you directly. You can come to Union, you're still going to have earthquakes. And I don't think the earthquakes are meant for your destruction or to fear, for your fear. But I do believe that the earthquakes are a message to us about the end of the age. And the end of the age, contrary to what our religion has taught us, the end of the age, it has nothing to do with the end of the earth, the end of man's existence. It has everything to do with the end of an age of greed and fear, recklessness, brutality, hatred. And I see that as a message to us in that regard. The other thing is that even when Ron periodically, and I hope he's on. Are you on, Ron?
Yes, sir. I'm on.
Even when he was raising those questions about it, we didn't even get to that place of even talking about the end of the age. We were simply, I guess, overthinking it. I wasn't supposed to see it at that moment. And the revelation of it came in two ways. One in Mary's question by the experiences she's had. Two, in Charles's response to her question. It opened up a lot into our being able to see it from that perspective. So, Mary, even though it feels like you're not in the right place because of earthquakes, you are in the righteous place that you are supposed to be in. If that were not so, because of your desires and diligence, you would not have gotten that house. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps. But I was just saying, okay, when it happens, it's like, okay. Fear came, but then I was able to calm myself down because what am I afraid of? Because when I know the next life is coming and I didn't come here to stay, so it's okay. I said, okay, Father, whatever. And I was able to kind of calm myself down because it was a frightening experience. And I'm getting up, looking out the window, nobody moving, no lights on, no nothing. So I said, man, I must be the only one that, first of all, I should have been asleep at 1:30. I'd have missed it. But anyway, it's just amazing. So I hear you, I understand, and and I knew it had to be a spiritual implication, which means that we're headed in the right direction, that change is coming. And it's coming maybe sooner than we think, or maybe a while, but it's coming. So thank you. That helps. Thanks.
We're at a stage now, baby girl, where we don't talk about maybes because that's what you feel. That's what I feel. That's what we're experiencing. We're experiencing that we are in the midst of seeing the change that has already taken place in the spiritual realm. Right now, what we are beginning to see is a manifestation of it. And I do love your perspective on our being in this earth and knowing that we're going to have to leave. How we leave is not up to us. In terms of whether it be an earthquake or accident, car accident, I don't see that us having a lot of control over that. The biggest thing is embracing the reality that we come in one door and leave out the other one. That's the biggest thing. Your perspective about transitioning is foreign, actually, to the church, even though it tells us that we're going to be in a better place. Nobody wants to go to that better place, seemingly from the way they talk. Any questions or comments about that? Thank you, Mary, for bringing that question.
Thank you.
I have two things came to mind to me. Is one, usually something like that, people see doom and gloom. Remember, as being Elohim, you have you can make these interpretations. You are the righteousness in the land. So if we see these things as life and as enlightenment, then that's what it be. No matter what else is said about it. So, and I'm trying to also remember, this discussion reminded me, somebody did a presentation several months ago now about the Age of Aquarius and the season for it coming. And I can't remember what was said. If anybody remembers that, I'm just curious if anybody remembers it and if you think it ties into where we are right now.
Is that Nick who did that?
Was it Nick?
I think it was you, Pastor, because I asked you what it was. This is Kathy, and you taught it on the heels of something else that we had learned, but it was actually you.
It was me? Okay.
Yes, sir.
It's not coming back to me. Usually stuff don't come back unless a question directed to it or a statement I made, then I can see it.
Okay, I just thought about that when when Barbara said a new age, we're in something new, and that doesn't mean anything bad, anything to fear. So that's all. And if you look at the sheer number of earthquakes that have happened, it gets our attention, but it also is shaking more than just the ground. It has a lot to do with the spiritualness or lack thereof in the earth. So,
Kathy, do you remember a sentence or a question?
I don't remember. I think Barbara had taught a lesson, and on the heels of that lesson, it led us into, And I can't think of what the lesson was, but it led us into looking at the Age of Aquarius and what that meant in conjunction with what she had been teaching. And we just transitioned from one topic right into that, and I cannot remember.
Barbara Jean, do you remember?
No, but if something comes up,
Okay.
I'll chime in.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you, Kat. Something I want you to say based on what you said, Ron. I know what it is. I want us now, especially you, Mary, since you are in the midst of where the earthquakes are not centered, but where you can actually really feel the vibration of them. I want you to take notice and see now that we have made the statements that we have about the enlightening experiences that the earthquakes are bringing. If we don't see less of them now because the message has been received. Does that make sense? Hello?
Hey, Real, when you said message been received, what are you talking about?
Okay, what I'm saying is this. If the message has been received about what this means, the earthquakes I'm talking about, that everything is being shaken and that we are moving into the age of Aquarius, a new age, a new place where we begin to see the manifestation of love and kindness, righteousness, and peace. That message has been received from the earthquakes. So now that the message has been received, let's pay attention close enough to see if they don't lessen or they don't stop all at once, or they will be far less than what it has been. You understand, Charles?
Yes, sir. I got it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Someone.
Pastor, how does? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
How does, in the midst of everything, I know we said that everything that can be shaken will be shaken, and it's not just speaking of earthquakes, of course, when that is being said, because shaken is the operative word there. But how does that tie into scripture that says, "Be still and know that I am God"? Because we talk about when we go through things, and what Mary described is what I call sitting with. You go back and you sit with this thing and you come to terms with it. And like Ron was saying a moment ago, that's when you make the decision that I'm Elohim, so I'm going to determine what this will be. And so how does being still and knowing that I am God in every situation that I may face, that I am, how does that tie into everything that we're talking about this morning?
Rather than being frantic and afraid, rather than being unsettled, be still and remind yourself of who you are. I am Elohim. When you are sitting with something, when you are reminding yourself that you are Elohim, that's when things begin to change in terms of your response to them. And when your response to them changes, the circumstances may not change in your view at that moment, but it does change because you've gotten the message and you reminded yourself as to who you are. Right now, the different things that we are facing, circumstances that we are facing, we have frequent opportunities to remind ourselves who we are. And when we do that, we are not frantic and we are not afraid. Like Mary was talking about earlier about the earthquake, she did have some fear in the beginning, but when it settled with her as to who she is, that changed. And I'm not saying she said, I am Elohim, but her expression of, I didn't come in to stay always, that's a reminder of who she is. Life does not end. Does that help you, Kat?
Absolutely. I was hoping that I was saying it the right way, but I just wanted to hear you say it as well. So thank you.
You're quite welcome. Any other questions or comments?
Hey, Rip, what did he mean that he gonna start with the house of faith first for anything to be happening? The Spirit of God, Elohim. Why he said that?
Because the place where that's called the household of faith is no different than what was happening when Jesus said that my Father's house is the house of prayer. But they were buying and selling in there. They were actually creating business within the frameworks of that setting. So that's simply talking about the household of faith is speaking of the church. It's speaking of those who think they got it. That's where the shaking starts. And if you have it, then the shaking does not break you. It strengthens you. For example, with COVID, churches panicked. They didn't know what to do. And when they panicked because they were being shaken, when they finally figured out what they wanted to do, they did streaming on Facebook. They did Zoom. They did conference calls and numbers of other things to stay in contact. But the question was, are you doing this to feed your people? It was done for two reasons. One, to make sure that they didn't lose any folk in their congregation after it was over with, and two, to keep the stream of income. And so that's the shaking that is talking about. Were we shaken as well? Yes, sir. We were shaken. But we were shaken, but we were not broken. And our desire was not focused on whether we were going to lose a number of people, keep people, or whether we were going to have a decrease in income or increase in income. None of that was there. Our primary focus was first, let's understand what's happening. Our desire is to see the whys of this. We know the source, but we want to understand the reason. And what did we do? Our primary efforts were to reassure our people that we are in control in terms of being Elohim, and the universe, Abun, our Father, is the one who is sending the plague into the land or allow it to present itself for the purpose of bringing reconciliation to humanity, reconciling the differences that people have towards each other, so that peace and harmony could prevail in the earth. Does that make sense to you, Charles?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Welcome, sir. Thank you. Any questions or comments about that?
Hey, this is Barbara. I would say that through everything that has happened, the pandemic, everything, that as a group of people, we have been strengthened. Faith Ministries has been strengthened, and we've grown, and we see so much more than we did even before the pandemic. So I would agree with you that where we are now versus where we were before the pandemic is leaps and bounds.
Absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I doubt very seriously if there is anyone on this line who does not see that. I see that very vividly, and I do believe that the reason that we could see so easily is because we could not see. I believe that the reason we could see so easily is because we are essentially speaking to each other in an earthly spiritual way. in a materially spiritual way. And the material spiritual way that we are speaking to each other is that we are in so many different locations, yet we hear each other, and no one else does outside of this Zoom call. We hear each other, and we are making what we say available to everyone. So it's more of rather than being, and I use this word very loosely, fragmented into three parts. We have become one part. We have become a whole, and being that whole, we have been able to experience each other's energy all at the same time, as opposed to experiencing each other's energy periodically. I hope I'm saying it right. You understand what I'm saying, guys?
Yes. Good morning, Pastor, and everyone. Pastor, you mentioned, maybe 2 sessions ago about the importance of just being aware of the cosmos, of being aware of the galactic family in terms of the planets, the stars, and how it has its comparison in terms of the human aspect. And I think that, us being able to appreciate moving from the age of Pisces, which talks about the water, and moving into the age of Aquarius, and all that's what's taking place. We've always spoken about the feminine energy having, its place and being heard, and I think it's just so evident that we are bearing witness to that. But I think at the same time, I just want to, mention in reference to us being able to appreciate the journey that we're on and the spirit, that's taking place, and us being able to receive what we're doing. And so I know that it has something to do with as so above, so below, and we can see the comparisons in terms of things manifesting right before us in terms of our desires. So I just wanted to share those thoughts.
Hey, George, it's Ron. You just touched on that discussion. I remember that. That's what we discussed a while back, coming out of the age of Pisces and into the age of. Do you have notes on that? What was the age of the water? Because we just finished talking about water. How does that tie together?
Well, in my, understanding, Ron, in terms of what Kathy mentioned about in terms of Aquarius, we know that the eternal waters existed before the beginning in the place of the Pangea, which is that substance that was matter. And matter existed before the beginning, and out of that matter, Pastor talked about the conversion, the heal. And so I think that what we're seeing, or what I'm seeing, is that the energy was at rest. And because of the conversion, that energy at rest, connected with the energy in motion, which brought forth a tune. And I think how I'm trying to understand and relate it is in terms of where we are right now, in terms of be still and know that I am God, I am Elohim. That stillness is where we were in the beginning in terms of that resting place. And because of this conversion that's taking place in the age of Aquarius, I'm seeing, Ron, how it's related in terms of us now being able to be spiritually enlightened, that order and arrangement is manifesting. And I think that's where the spirit, is connecting in terms of the sun, and it's relating to the animal life, the plant life, and the human life. So I don't know if that resonates, Ron, but that's what I'm feeling.
I got it, George. Age of Aquarius. I got it. Thank you. Something you said that clicked. Ron, did that resonate with you before I speak to the age of
Yes, it did. I saw unity in what he said.
Right.
Inclusiveness. Yeah. Okay. But go ahead.
Age of Aquarius is a period of high consciousness, rather than our consciousness being in bondage to the earth's consciousness, we began to have greater enlightenment, and our consciousness has begun to expand, and when that happens, we are able to take control of the earth, meaning that we're able to dominate the earth in a righteous way, and it makes us it makes us, not just us on of course in terms of who's on Zoom, but it makes us in the earth become more mindful of human rights. We become more mindful of of how we treat each other, and see the need for changes. That the expanded consciousness allows us to make that connection, and it even guides us when we are making every effort to bring other people, guide them towards the light itself. It shows us how to do that. That's the energy of Aquarius that expands our conscious awareness. Does that make sense? And Kathy, does that touch what you were talking about?
It does, and I'm remembering, and I hope Barbara can help me. She had mentioned one of the 10 utterances that she had taught. Somehow it tied into one of the things that she had taught there, and from there, that led us into the Age of Aquarius. So yes, what you're saying makes sense. I'm remembering that now.
Part of what we talked about with earthquakes, I think Ron brought it up in April, about the earthquakes in South Carolina, and then Charles talked about the number of earthquakes since November, December. We talked about how it was similar to, it could be similar to childbirth contractions, that something was about to be birthed specifically. We talked about energy resisting change, like white supremacy, that white superiority that exists in the minds of men, but not in the mind of the universe. So there's that dissonance, there's that discordance, there's that difference between what's in the minds of men and what is in the vibration of the universe. We talked about Pastor, you just mentioned unity. Ron, one of you. We talked about the fact that we bear each other's burdens, and that our vibration frequency vibrates at a certain hertz, as does the universe. And with the Age of Aquarius, with it being a period of high spiritual energy, it's that opportunity for us to vibrate more in line with the universe. And in so doing, we have the opportunity to change energy, to change negative energy, to transform it into positive. So if South Carolina has been, I think you said something, Pastor, the harbinger, because of everything South Carolina is, it's been the harbinger of negative energy that's affected not only the state but the nation. So energies from the earthquake in South Carolina are for us to see and to embrace and to repurpose for the benefit of humanity. So when we do this, not only does South Carolina change, the nation changes, the world changes, but the hearts and minds of people in and of that change. So instead of seeing all of this as a setback, as you just responded to, I think it was Mary, this is just a sign. Earthquakes are just a sign that we are on the precipice and we are in the midst of this change, and that when we embrace it, it's not a setback for us. It's our opportunity to repurpose that energy for good.
to add on to what Ms. Barber said, this is Sheldon. Didn't get to say it earlier, but in regards to earthquakes, and it ties in everything that's been said. Um, Earthquakes are often associated with periods of great social change or unrest, where whatever the current consciousness at the time was or is at any particular moment is unstable in terms of there being conflict and being pushed out from which it currently is, which of course we know is going on right now. Mary, your ability to calm yourself and ground yourself in that particular situation was more indicative of your deeper understanding and embracing that you just don't, react to certain weather conditions, et cetera. It was more so the realization that you helped to form them. We help to form the weather in that way, but oftentimes that's what earthquakes represent, like I said, which clearly we see has been going on. It has been going on for a little while now. I'm finished.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Pastor, I wanted to add something, and I'm thinking it through as I'm saying this. When I think about something being shaken, I'm thinking of something that's being disturbed. And I'm looking at the energy of the South and how it has influenced the North, and with this racist practices and all the things we've talked about that was embedded in just the mindset of the South and the energy of the South. And I'm thinking, and I'm tying that to being woke, because I'm thinking if you're a patient and you're in the hospital and you're hooked up to the machines, when you flatline, the line on the machine is straight. That's the way I'm seeing that things have been for so long. Now, when we start to wake up, it disturbs, and I'm saying when things are disturbed, it shakes it up, it wakes it up. And when you're awakened again, when you're woke, you see that there is ebbs and flows now on the screen. Everything is pulsating and the energy is moving again. So I'm thinking as I'm looking at this thing, we've been like in a state of being flatlined where this energy is not dead, but it's just been lying dormant, producing what it does, because energy always produces. Now, when we say the woke crowd, or that we are awakened, or that we now have a higher sense of consciousness or a higher understanding of who we are, that causes a shaking. That causes everything to wake up and to start moving again. Because even when we talk about, even when the waters aren't flowing, it's stagnant, it's no life there. It is the movement of the water that we say that we know that there is life because of the movement of the water. So I'm kind of talking this through and tying this together in my mind, but does that even make sense, what I'm saying? Can you see that image of the picture that I'm painting there?
Yes, ma'am. I saw when you talked about flatline. Oh, God, yes. I see something there.
Now, to add on to your point, Kathy, I was just thinking in awe to think that internally our conscious growing or being shaken, or just simply changing our focus in a sense, has the power or the result of creating such great physical things like earthquakes. And I mean, a lot of times we look at these things as just being destructive, but this is just in terms of power and energy and creative potential that lies in that simple thing that you just mentioned.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just said thank you, Sheldon, for adding to that.
When you mentioned flatline, I saw something. This nation, this world has been flatlined for some time, been dead for quite some time. When we talk about how the attitude, the mentality of slavery has controlled this country since its inception. This country was flatlined at that point. And what happened is there has been a continuous thought of self-centeredness that's been controlling this nation, this world. And now that we have gotten to a place of being shaken, what's happened is that flat line is no longer there. There is a heartbeat now, and the heartbeat is shaking everything that has been on that flat line, meaning that everything that's been self-centered is now being shaken, and now we are beginning to step into the place where we were supposed to be all the time. There was tremendous progress in the world before the European came in contact with people of color. And the progress in this world was because the African was traveling the world, teaching the world how to do things within the confines of this earth and understand its place in the universe. And when Europeans created weaponry and began to use it against other men, that's when the earth flatlined. And now here we are. We are at this place where we have given the heart a shock. And in shocking the heart with a defibrillator, we have brought it back to life again and awoke. Yes, we are. And even those who are self-centered recognizes that there has been an awakening take place, and that's why they call it the woke generation. We are beginning to see something, experience something that we have never experienced before. From the beginning of the contact that Europeans made with people of color, Africans in particular, the world has been placed within a space of death, and now what we began to see is the life coming back from that womb. If all mankind came from the womb of an African woman, then the African is the progenitor to every human on this earth, and because we are the progenitor of every human on this earth, there are tentacles that still extend from them to us. And what happened, rather than be as brutal as they were, we understood that love and kindness is supposed to prevail, but it did not. And we did not do anything to force it to prevail. So here we are, realizing now who we are. Yes, we are Elohim. Yes, we are. Everyone is created in the image of Elohim. But the African is the loving kindness in this earth. The African is the forgiving heart in this earth, more so than any other group of people. Everyone knows that. And if anyone denies it, it's simply because they are either blind or they are in denial as to what reality is. If that is true, and I know it to be true, it is true, that means that the African is the overseer, the caretaker of this earth. We are the caretakers of this earth. And when we realize the divinity of our being, that's when the awakening took place. That's when everything that can be shaken was begun to shake. That's where we are now. This morning, we have recapped everything that we have learned in the last 20 years. And that recapping came with a question that seems simple. with Mary asking about the earthquake. Here we are. Everything is being shaken, which means that everything is being awakened, or at least given the opportunity to awaken. Also, we are experiencing a period when humanity is becoming aware of the inhumanity that has ruled this earth for so long. It is now that self-centeredness is being shown for what it really is, white supremacy. And the white supremacy has prevailed because the African allowed it to. And now that the African is awakened, that it can no longer prevail because we will not allow it to. The essence of white supremacy, the essence of it is Donald Trump. Not the man, but the attitude. And the attitude that he has gave rise to the attitude of many who had been hiding behind the shield of lies, of manipulation. And now that he has done that, the womb of evilness has opened. And the womb of evilness has allowed the white supremacist to raise its head, and the manipulation of females to show its real colors, and allowed for everything in this earth that has been detrimental to humanity to be seen for what it really is. It has allowed an economy, the strongest economy in the world, to begin a death spiral. It has allowed for a country that was imperialistic, that called itself democracy, to begin to see what it is. This has never been a democracy. Actually, it functioned as a republic. However, it is time for it to function as a nation. And the only way it can do that is for those who are the overseers, or those who are the caretakers of this earth, to make sure that it happens. The scriptures are written in order for us to see who we are, and the scriptures have been preserved through the manipulation. What am I saying? I am saying that the Caucasian saw in the scriptures an opportunity to manipulate humanity and bring humanity under its control. And it did that without realizing they were preserving the very thing that was going to awaken the African and began to, for the African to begin to see with his eye that it does have a country. Even though the African does not know what language it spoke previously, even the African does not know what portion of Africa it came from, it does have a country. The globe, the universe, is this nation. And because of that, it is incumbent upon us in realizing that to make sure that we are the ones who unveil all the wickedness so that we can make this thing right again. And it will not be done by Africans who are on the continent of Africa. It can only be done by the Africans in this nation and this country. And the reason I say that is because it is the roots of this country. It has been the damnation of the world. And it started in Europe with the Greeks and with the Romans. And it expanded to this nation. The Creator allowed this land to be inhabited by criminals, by the attitude, the basic attitude of Europeans is criminality. And it allowed it to be inhabited by criminals so that the worst, the most base thoughts and desires could be brought to the forefront, so those who are the caretakers of the earth would be able to bring balance to this earth realm. The earth is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The spiritual life is the tree of life. What am I saying? The earth is the tree of good and evil. The only place where you find good and evil is on this earth, and this earth is that place. And we must make it a place of life. When Jesus was resurrected, Jesus showed us what it was supposed to be like. Every one of us are supposed to be as Jesus was at resurrection. meaning that we have functionality in both worlds. and the only way we have functionality in both worlds is that we must conquer the evilness in this world, and we must bring out of this world those who are blinded by self-interest and greed, those who are blinded by racism. It is incumbent upon us to use the tentacles, to use the umbilical cord that's still connected to us, to feed them righteousness, peace, and joy, to feed them the type of awakening that the earth has been longing for generations. The earthquakes are reminders of what's going on in society. The storms are a reminder of the need for us to blow away all of the things that should not be present in this earth realm. We are those who are supposed to be doing that. And every time that we come together, we are shown something else, not something different, but something else. We are building upon the foundation that was laid many years ago. And if you think about it, everything that we have spoken of it before, but we are continuously seeing what we are building upon. The scriptures have not changed. Yet, every time we read the same verse, we see something more in that verse. Not something different, but something more in that verse. And that's who we are. We are the more that the earth needs. We are not just one, we are many that the earth needs. And in order for the earth to become what it is supposed to be, we must embrace the reality that we are the caretakers of this earth. We are, in conjunction with the universe, the unicity of this earth. That's who we are, and that's how we must function. Not just from this day forward, but that's how we were supposed to function from the beginning. There's no coincidence that the Moors, and Moor simply means black, that the Africans moved into Sicily. There's no coincidence that the African moved into southern Spain. It's no coincidence that no matter where you go around this world, you find the remnants of our having been there before anyone else, because we are the caretakers of this world. Image and likeness, Elohim. We must do what we were brought into this earth to do, and that is redemption. Any questions or comments? And I hope I'm clear.
I have a question, comment. This is Audrey. So are you then saying that we are the water bearers? We are bringing in this age of Aquarius?
Yes.
That's my question.
We are actually responding to the age of Aquarius. And what I mean by that, Audrey, is this. The energy of age of Aquarius is here. And we are responding to that energy that we are experiencing. So what we are actually doing is being energized by this age of Aquarius. And according to the astrologers, the age of Aquarius lasts for 2,100 plus years. So we have the time period, we have the space, I should say, to do this, to be the water bearers, as you said, and to utilize the energy, or to be submissive, I should say, to the energy of Aquarius. Does that make sense?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I have 3 pictures in my bedroom, and all of those pictures show different jars, but there is a woman who is pouring water from a smaller container into a larger container. And I always wondered what that was about, but and I don't know who envisioned these pictures, but that's what's there. And it's almost like when Audrey said water bearers, that reminded me of the pictures. And the question I had was, how can that feminine energy, pour water into that larger jar, larger much larger container from a picture of water, what seems to be a picture of water. So it just speaks to me that it is not about the container itself only, because it's about the root of the container and where it has its roots. And if that smaller picture of water has its roots in infinity, its roots in the universe in terms of its meaning, that means then that whatever comes out of that small, seemingly small picture is enough to fill any large container. Can you see where I'm going with this, and can you put it in more concrete terms for me, please?
I do. I see expanded consciousness. The smaller pointing to the larger, and the next one pointing to one even larger. I see what you're saying. It all makes sense. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead, Bob.
But and the thing that pulls it together, Ron reminded us of what we said about feminine energy taking its place, and it's all about balance. And when everything is in balance, when everything is functioning as it should be, functioning as the Elohim that it is, then provision is there for whatever is needed, when it's needed, and how it's needed.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? I know you're processing now. I do understand that. In the course of your processing, are there any questions coming to your mind or comments, or something that's not clear to you?
Pastor, this is Evelyn.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that has been said has been an eye-opener for me. My perspective has changed about why I am really here. And I realize that everything that I'm going through, things that I think that is not right, I am going through it for a reason. I have to remember you can't take things personally. And I got a job to do. And you're right, everything that we're hearing now, we're just receiving. We're in that receiving mode, and we're processing everything that's being said. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I think this is Audrey again. I think it's interesting that Kathy's analogy kind of hits it right on the head, because you have all these white supremacist types who are railing against people being quote unquote woke, because they don't want people to think. They don't want people to analyze or process. They just want them to believe whatever they're saying. So it's a really appropriate analogy. It hits it right on the head.
And as I've been thinking about that, Audrey, I ask myself then, what is the opposite of being woke? So what they're telling you is they want you to stay asleep and not be aware of anything. Because if you stay asleep, it's flatlined. And therefore, the powers that be that have always been in place, all of that energy that governs all of those decisions that are made, and the mindsets that carry out those decisions get to stay in place and in power. So the fear is when you wake up, everything starts to shake and fall apart. It is now disturbing that you have laid up and built up and decided that this is how we want it to be forever. That's what they fear. So if people would listen to what they're really saying, they're telling you, we prefer for you to be asleep. That would offend me, that you want me to be ignorant. But people don't hear that. They're just like, oh, the woke crowd. Yeah, you want to be asleep or do you want to be awake? And so I've been really giving that a lot of thought, because you're saying to me, stay in your place, leave things alone, stay so it can stay as it has always been, because you have been asleep. I don't want you to wake up.
That's exactly what they're saying.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, Pastor. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to put it in another words where God told me at work is I just want things to go back to the way they were. And I've also heard Black people say that. Why can't things just go back the way they were? And I, my question is always, how were they? How were they? What do you want to see go back to? So that's saying the same thing. I don't want any type of responsibility. I don't want to think. And I think that's pretty sad coming from an African, but yeah, you do hear that.
And the way that they have been putting people to sleep is not working anymore. People have been robbed to sleep economically. What happened? Every time that there was an increase in salaries, there was an economic downfall. The markets would crash. For example, in the 80s, the tech boom was paying people better than men in this earth have ever been paid before. And Reagan killed it. So now people are struggling again. So they are asleep to what's going on around them. This time around, people are increasing income because they demanded it. And when they got it, what happened? The collusion between the government and the oil company takes it away. So you could make $25 an hour and still struggle, simply because of one product, gas. And because that controls everything else. But people are refusing to be rocked to sleep again. And the reason they are is because there is an energy force in this earth that the earth has never experienced but have always wanted. And that energy force is an African who knows who it is and its purpose, and is not trying to win any political games, is not trying to do anything that is racist against anyone, is not seeking revenge, is simply seeking balance. That's all the difference in the world. The energy force that desires for humanity to be human, period. To me, that is the greatest awakening that could ever be. The pivotal points today, so far that I'm seeing, are those that dealt with the earthquake and the awakening of humanity, and where we are at this point in our responsibility to understanding the quaking of the earth, to understanding what the flat line is speaking to. Any questions or comments about this?
I also see something a little clearer as well. I think every time we come on the line without recognizing it, we go back to beginning. And going back to beginning gives you the opportunity to see more and to take more in and to be aware of more and to absorb the energy in order to repurpose it. So that's not only where we are today. It's not just and new information. It is things that we've talked about that you can feel, you can sense a change already taking place just through the understanding. And that to me is just, kind of beautiful to absorb. So not only is this more, but it feels good, it feels right. And I just wanted to add that. I don't know if anybody else feels that or not.
I do. Beating swords into plowshares is talking about balance. It's talking about, rather than having weaponry that's destroying humanity, your battle is to make sure that humanity is sustained in the earth. The idea of the lion lying down with the sheep is talking about balance. The rage and anger, the brutality no longer prevails in the earth, because now we have become to a place of balance, to the extent that even the prey can lay down with the one who hunts it, and there's no longer a need for weapons, because we are in this. We are purposed to make sure that everyone is taken care of, as opposed to making every effort to take everything away from everyone we can. Questions or comments? Okay. No questions, no comments.
Yeah, this is Angela. I just wanted to bring up, well, in Acts, I know we don't deal with poems too much, but in Acts, where it's talking about when the earthquake came and the people were in prison and they was released, meaning they was able to receive,
Yeah, I know what you're talking
I
about.
don't know what it said, but I can't put. But they was able to. It wasn't that they were actually. They was in prison due to they was taught.
You're talking about
Huh?
Paul and Silas were in prison, and the earthquake came at midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And the earthquake came at midnight, and the shackles fell from them.
Mhm.
That was one of those favorite things I used to preach. At midnight, how things change as the darkness moves towards the light. It only took the earthquake to break the shackles. So the earthquake is a reminder that you are capable of breaking the bondage that you're in, being free from that bondage, and you're able to walk out of the prison, walk out of bondage, as opposed to dying in bondage.
And that's what.
Go ahead.
And that's what's so powerful about what Kathy said about wakefulness, being woke. It's like the shackles that have bound consciousness have been loosened. So everyone has an opportunity now to access what's in the macro if they choose to. They choose to become aware of who they are. If we choose to act on who we are, that's up to us.
So now, what you're saying, by all that checking that's going on, he's waking us up to be who we're supposed to be, Elohim, in this nation and all around the earth.
It's waking us up to know that we are Elohim. We've always been that, Charlie. We just was not aware of it. And yes, sir, it is for the entire earth to be aware of. Because right now, we're not speaking just to each other. As Barbara stated earlier, we put it in the macro. And as Kathy stated about the flat line beginning, the energy began to move again, and you see the pulsating of it as life comes back to the body. When you put in the macro, you have opportunity, as Barbara says, to pull it from the macro, because the life is in the macro. The life of balance is there. So now you have opportunity to receive it if you desire to. And that is one of the reasons we have so many people who were born in the midst of white supremacy beginning to move away from it and seeing it for what it really is, and doing everything they can to understand how to remove it from the face of the earth. See, we stated quite some time ago that racism is not our problem. Racism is the problem of the ones who perpetuates it, because we cannot force anyone to change. They have the desire to change. But if they don't see anything to change into, then there will be no change. So it's imperative that we put it in the macro, so when the desire comes for change, there will be something available to change into. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Are there any comments or questions? I know today a lot has been said. A lot has been revealed. And the things that we've been talking about for years, we began to see it now. Let's go ahead. Did someone say something?
Sage, I'd like to ask something. This is for Mel. In talking about this, it's kind of, there are moments when I feel like, oh, mercy, I'm not coming along. But it needs to be where, I guess this is my question. It needs to be where we're all along this journey at different spots or learning moments, because that's the way this world is, right? It's designed, we're not all designed to be at the same place at the same time, knowing the exact same thing.
We won't be.
You understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Okay. We won't be at the same place at the same time, learning the same thing. Even those of us who have been together for years are at different places at different times, because the thing that moves you doesn't move me. However, I must respect the thing that does move you. And we are not learning the same thing. We are different pieces of the same puzzle. And we have, every one of us has a part in it. The foot cannot say it doesn't need the arm. Neither can the leg say it does not need the fingers. So we are all different pieces of the same body. Yet,
okay, I got it.
We make every effort to be in balance with each other. I mean, think about this. Yesterday, I don't know how long Barbara had been on the phone before she started talking, but when she came on the phone, she plugged in. Not only did she do that, but she responded to things that we had talked about prior to her being there. So how did that happen? Because same energy. See, this is one thing I want to say to us. If you are privy to what we are learning, and you get off this line, or Zoom, or whatever you want to call it, Zoom, I guess. Anyway, you get off, and you go back to your old ways, you wasted your time. If you don't intend or desire to change, then why are you here? If there is a desire to change, then you need to work on your idiosyncrasies. You need to work on those things, those irritants All of us have things that irritate people, but we need to work on them and stop blaming others. And we need, especially, to move beyond selfishness. I remember when the kids were younger, they were real small, and they would play, and they would walk away and leave something there in the floor, and I would say, pick it up. They say, I didn't put it there, and I'm saying, sit down, let's talk about this. It doesn't matter who put it there. What matters, it is there, and I asked you to pick it up. There are going to be things in your life that you didn't do, but you're going to have to straighten them out. So let this be a lesson to that. That if I had allowed that to happen and say, you're right, you didn't put it there, I'm going to make someone else get it, that lesson would not have been taught. And you go through life being selfish. And I can go on and on with examples like that. So we have to put into action in our lives the loving kindness that we talk about, understanding that we are being shaken, and sometimes the shaking shows you your shortcomings. And if you refuse to see them and they're pointed out to you, that's the problem. We cannot overlook what appears to be the small things and embrace what appears to be the larger things. You cannot hold on to what you consider to be the larger things if you cannot respect the smaller things. You cannot be ruler or set boundaries for humanity if you can't set them for yourself. You've heard the term, life is too short for things like this to happen. Life is too important because life speaks to balance. Life is too important for us to focus on the smaller things that beset us as opposed to allowing them to strengthen us. You don't get strong by lifting heavy weights. You get strong by building up to those heavy weights. And you don't get to the larger things without building up to them. Your attitude, your sense of self has to be altered from what it was prior to where we are. This old thing like that's just who I am. No, it does not have to be that. This is the way I was raised. Who cares? It doesn't have to be that. This is the way I've always been. Now it's time for you to stop being that way. We are in a place now where everything that appears to be small, it matters. Everything matters. The way you speak to people matters. The way you look at them matters. The way you respond matters. Because your response, your speech, the way you look at someone is not just that person that you are affecting, it's everyone. If your righteousness spreads righteousness, what does your unrighteousness do? If your kindness beget kindness, what does your lack of kindness do? We are at a point where we cannot live by retrogressing to what we were. We have to look at who we are. There was a time when I would cut you so short you could sit on a dime and swing your legs. But that's not who I am now. Because that was demeaning to humanity. It was not putting someone in their place as much as it was demeaning to humanity. That had to change. I met ungodly responses with ungodly responses. And I did not see that as vengeance at the time. I see the difference now. Yes, I am a man without visibility now, but I am seen by everyone. Yet I am invisible to everyone. Last week, when the Juneteenth thing happened, I was supposed to speak, but I didn't. I couldn't. But the speech was delivered by one of my friends. And I was telling Ron about it. He pointed out to me, you were present in a different way. And I could see that. So what am I saying to you? You must become invisible in order for you to be seen. You don't have to be on the stage to be seen. Right now, you're being seen, yet we don't see you. That's how our lives must be. You don't have to be angry. You don't have to have rage. You don't have to respond to everything. Sometimes it's better to be quiet and then address it when cooler heads prevail. Why am I saying all of this to us? Because every one of us have personal lives that brings us face to face with all the things that I've talked about in the last few minutes. And how we respond to them will determine the depth of our desire to have the functionality of Elohim. How we respond determines whether or not we are deadly serious about harmony and righteousness and peace. So I admonish you, if there's anything that someone has done or said and you're holding on to it, let it go. And don't tell me you can't. And don't tell me it's easier said than done. It's just as easy to do it as it is to say it if you desire for it to happen. And don't tell me that that's just you, Pastor. No, it's not just me. It's you also. I am no different than you. The only thing that I have been privileged with, and I mean it is definitely a privilege, the thing that I have been privileged with has been to cover so many people. But in every regard, my actions, my functions must be as yours are, and yours must be as mine. And that means that our functionality has to be that of righteousness. Don't hurt people feeling just because you can. Because when you hurt them, you're doing more damage to yourself. You are supposed to be at a place of spiritual understanding where some people are not. And even if you are, and you say something, seek forgiveness. Unforgiveness, unrighteousness will destroy you. It will become a blinder, and you get so comfortable with it until you don't realize that you're being unrighteous, that you're being unkind, that you're speaking out of turn. Ask yourself, would I want someone to say something to me like that? Or would I want them to treat me that way? Please know this, Please know that a Cushite saying is this: do unto others as you will have them do unto you. That has been found written on the caves, written in the temples rather, of the Cushites. In every temple, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. For thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, that has been a primary mantra. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that's speaking in every regard. Treat people, speak to people the way you want to be treated or spoken to. If there are no questions or comments, I'm going to leave you with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No questions, no comments? Then tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock, we shall meet again. Enjoy the rest of your day. And again, I am very grateful that the Creator has granted permission to interact with you guys, to interact with the universe. Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody.
Have a good day, everybody.